Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to wrap up today with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. Today's comes at us from Wesley, Stillborn by Burning Witch. Burning Witch was a short-lived drone doom metal band that featured Stephen O'Malley, who's in Sun, and was in many other drone doom metal bands. Alright, as usual, I'm going to give this as much of an open mind reaction as I can. Drone is not my cup of tea. I already see that this is almost 12 minutes long. Let's get into it, see what's going on with Burning Witch. A little bit of free time right here. There's at least two people performing. Maybe the vocalist is the guitarist or drummer. And yet they're still in free time. There is a lack of consistency to the tempo. Well, I guess free time is not accurate. It's still 4/4. It's just a very loose tempo of 4/4. Either that, or we could classify it as putting a fermata at the end of every other bar. That does tend to seem where things get stretched out, and then we finally get that one again. Interesting that despite being doom, 100% doom, between the vocals and the guitar tone and chords, kind of like a slow Pantera. Oh, there's a bass in here too. kind of Black Sabbath here. You know, they also might be accenting non-beats too. It's like really slow gent, which would make it really difficult to keep up with. And it is. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, they come in just behind the downbeat, just in front of the downbeat. I don't even think they're directly eighth notes coming in at the exact middle point between two beats. There's almost like grace notes, but you're not playing the note that you would typically grace into. I'll explain grace notes later. It's very interesting. Here's the drone part. Okay. I was not expecting this to come back. Okay. So I was still on beat, kind of. If you follow this beat, there's sometimes a cymbal that keeps this tempo. This is 60 BPM, give or take. And for those who are pretty good at math, 60 beats per minute would be 1 beat per second. Pretty much consistently every second you get a hit. Not incredibly slow. Some of the funeral stuff we've listened to, Funeral Doom, has gone down into the 30s. So just imagine that, and even slower. But I think at the end of the day, it just feels incredibly slow, especially as the guitars are kind of working around that 30 feel anyways. The guitars don't hit every beat like the cymbals do sometimes. And so it feels even slower because you're getting one hit or one beat every 2 seconds. You really feel the space between beats, or I should say between hits of the guitars. It is also quite possible to view this in 30 BPM where the cymbals are playing eighth notes. That's tough for me to understand. Eighth notes to me are, they're brisk, they're faster. You get 2 per beat. That has speed to it. When you're playing something this slow, I can't feel that as eighth notes. Those are quarter notes for me. But as usual, time signature, time signature, but also tempo is subjective. You can feel it in a few different ways. And you can even subdivide it if you want, which helped me incredibly. I subdivided all of this into triplets in order to keep the pace, because feeling out seconds in time is kind of tough to do accurately. But if I can break each second into 3 distinct parts, that's a little easier to control, a little easier to stay in beat with. That's really the only way I could nod my head in time through those empty spaces, and more importantly, through the spaces where there isn't an accent on the downbeat. This is wild. Doom doesn't do this very often because it's kind of difficult to follow along with a song when it's moving this slow already. You really need landmarks to keep up where you're at. But if no one's landmarking that core pulse anywhere in this, how do you know where you're at? You can get away with skipping beats on something that's faster because you're still going to get a sound, an accented attack, fairly frequently. If you're at 120 beats per minute, you can skip 2, maybe even 3 beats and still have a pretty good idea of where you're at within the bar, just on an internal metronome level. But this, there's so much space between it, it's easy to get lost within that. So usually, once you start dipping down into low tempos like this, you're going to focus more on downbeats than ever before. And this band doesn't. It's what threw me off originally. I had incorrectly, I believe, stated that the song was playing around with free time because the accented hits, or just the hits in general, the guitar strums and snare attacks came in behind where I was expected. I thought I had a pretty good internal tempo, and I would expect a hit and then I wouldn't get it. And by the time I'm bringing my body up, that's where the hit comes in. I wasn't rushing, was I? It's entirely possible. My internal metronome is pretty good. I pat myself on the back here, but it's not perfect. And when it comes to slow tempos like this, I've certainly lost the time before. I had come to the conclusion that maybe it was free time where the tempo was loose, not consistent. That's easy to do when you have one instrument, but vocals, drums, bass, and guitar all coming in at the same point, fairly consistently together. It's not a lot of sloppiness in where the beats are on this track. Every instrument seems to lock into the beat. And yet they're all consistently behind me. I must be the one that's wrong, right? Then I came to my second incorrect conclusion: fermatas. A fermata is a little dot with an eyebrow over it. Looks like an eye now that I think about it. And it says that this beat will be longer than it's expected to be. Usually, if you're ever listening to a song, particularly a classical song, and there's just a point when it feels like the song just expands and the whole band is holding a note, and then you continue back at the original tempo, that's usually the fermata. In those cases, the conductor is going to be the one who dictates how long that fermata lasts. There's no specific length to it. It's just whenever the director feels that that's as long as it should be in their interpretation of the score. But I think that was also wrong, because as I got further into the track and began subdividing beats so I could follow them quicker, or follow them easier and more precisely, I found out that we always ended up back together after a few bars. Even if they were slightly ahead or behind me in places, we eventually did find a one together. They're playing syncopated beats in this ridiculously slow tempo. This is bonkers. They've got to have a click track or a metronome or somebody conducting. Maybe while the vocalist is doing his screeches, he's throwing down one of these. I don't know, some way to keep the band together. Or they're all just phenomenally, metronome robots. Just perfect internal meter between all three of them, or all four of them. It is impressive, but also wildly obtuse. Like I mentioned, we don't have landmarks to understand this syncopation against. You really have to understand within yourself that we are in 4/4 in a static tempo, and that you've got to keep that core pulse yourself to feel the syncopation against. I think I already went over why landmarking is important, but there's a reason why you don't hear too much syncopation in doom bands, period. Much less anyone who's going to start pushing towards the 30 BPM realm. It just makes for something incredibly difficult to follow along with. And that makes it more special for me. It's still doom. At the end of the day, I wouldn't say that my experience with this is any different than any other ridiculously slow doom metal. But just the fact that there's syncopation in it, which threw me on this massive puzzle of, hey, dude, let's solve the tempo on this track. That was interesting. That's something I've never had to do with Doom before. Wild decision. And the fact they keep it together through the entirety of it is bonkers. Round of applause to Burning Witch. Y'all are mad lads. Who would think to do this? And I don't even know that it makes the song better. It just makes it different and difficult to groove to. I think even if I had heard this song a dozen, 2 dozen times, I would still be subdividing into triplets in my head just to follow along with it, because there's no way to bob your head to this otherwise. I don't think that there's any point where you just internalize this syncopated 30 BPM phrase. It's too minimal on the number of notes coming at you within seconds to internalize that way as a listener without just a lot of time with this. A lot of time. Now, it is Doom at the end of the day, though. We have sort of chord shaping. It's tough to suss out the harmonic pattern here, the chord progression, because there's so much time between ideas in general. But there is a descending series of pitches from the guitar, and if you told me that this was all just one chord all the way through, I probably would believe you. I would say that emotionally, if it isn't the same chord, it's the same chord name throughout. We might be changing the root tone, but the intervals of all the other notes are going to be either identical or fairly close, creating a similar emotional resonance in every single chord. I don't really have much of a push and pull, tension and release in this. It is mostly just weight and heaviness and darkness at all times, and maybe various flavors of weight and heaviness and darkness. That's fairly standard for doom metal. In fact, I think a lot of doom metal we've listened to, especially on this super low end funeral doom stuff, has been just 2 chord progressions tops, just kind of focusing between something a little heavier and something a little less heavy, but not necessarily light. So again, probably 1 or 2 chords here, mostly focusing on the same ideas. We do have this descending pattern though in the guitars. We start back and we descend again. It is heavy though. It is moody. It's dreary. Honestly, what I think gives this song a lot of character, the vocals. There is a clean vocal here with a lot of reverb, very Ozzy Osbourne. And in fact, parts of this do feel kind of Black Sabbath-y at times. Modernish doom metal version. Obviously, Black Sabbath is traditional heavy metal, has a bit of a different sound to this, production-wise and harmonic choice, but it gets the job. It kind of comes across as, oh yeah, they've definitely been inspired by Black Sabbath. Those elements come through. A little bit of, wearing your inspirations on your sleeve bit. But aside from those cleans, we also have harshes. And these are very goblin-y. Almost feel constrained. Pushed up to the top of the palate. There's almost a high pitchedness to them as well. Something that feels nasally. It's very distinct to me because, again, sort of in opposition of my experience with Doom, a lot of it comes across as growling. A lot of low-end rumble to pair with the low-end guitars and the rumble of the bass guitar. And to be fair, this song has a lot of low-end presence from the instruments too. It's just that the vocals choose to be outside of that. And while I couldn't discern every single line on this track, there were quite a few places where I heard a sentence of what this guy was saying. Not everything was super clear. There were certainly some instances where I tried to hear what he was saying, and nope, just sounds. I didn't get any good enunciation, but there are places with strong enunciation to them and very clear production all the way through. You can always hear what the vocals are doing separate from the rest of the band, and I do think a lot of this is just pitch separation. A lot of the instruments are lower, the vocals are usually higher coded. That separation is going to add a lot of clarity to them. But it does, again, set it apart from doom metal. I found that to be kind of nice. Not vocals I'd seek out, but again, a novelty to it that I don't find within this genre too often. The last deviation, of course, is the other half of this song's description. It is a doom drone track. And we did have a bit of drone in the middle, and I was afraid we were just going to get 6 minutes of doom and then 6 minutes of drone, especially given that this is one of the people who is in Sun right now. But we didn't. We got maybe 2 minutes of drone. I don't have anything to add to this. I got nothing out of it. It was a little bit of an interlude. I was more surprised that we came back to the doom style stuff than the presence of this section in the track. But it was just, there's some noise, some non-musical noise going on here, and some clattering of stuff, almost an industrial sound, like we were in some sort of warehouse for a little bit, while this guitar was just feedback and reverberation, just as one tone just blowing out. The pitch changed every once in a while. I assume that the sound was starting to trail off, so pick the volume back up with the new note. But, as far as interpreting this section, I don't know. It almost feels dissociative, where it takes the ideas of the doom. We have the guitar playing sparse notes and holding them out, and we have some percussive stuff going on, but it just distorts that, takes it from something that is traditionally musical, following along with concepts of rhythm, harmony, melody, and shifting into noise, almost field recording. Again, it sounds like I'm in a warehouse, as if these are just sounds going on, not making something musical, but maybe sonic art at best. That's always a fun conversation to have. The separation between sonic art and music. If music is not sonic art, what is it? But I hope the distinction is clear enough for just talking about this section here. And it's almost as if we took the more focused ideas of creating music and abstracted them into sounds again. And then they formed back into music to wrap the song up. That is maybe a bit of a generous take on it, but that's all I got out of it. Did not add anything to the song for me. Didn't subtract anything either, but I probably could have done without it. I don't know. At the end of the day, this is a very slow track. And I think it spoke to me within the first minute, the same thing that I got out of it by the end of it. I didn't have a lot of change of ideas here other than the temporal revelations. It's a song that if it was at a proper... there's my cynical side coming out. A proper tempo to it, it would have been 3 minutes long. Let's hit some lyrics on this, and we'll see what's going on there. I have to wonder if this band doesn't want the lyrics to be understood or known. I find this interesting because usually, well, let me preface this a little bit. I can't find any official lyrics for this. I can't find a complete set of lyrics for this. Not even Metal Archives has lyrics for this, and they always have lyrics for metal songs. When no other website does, they'll have it. And they don't. What this tells me is that there's no official lyrics out there. They're not put in any leaflets or inserts, anything like that. And that all of the lyrics out on the web, which are all incomplete in the exact same way, are picked up by ear, which already means that they might not be accurate. But usually in a case like this, it's for growling that's stuffed into the mix, as if you're not supposed to really hear the words anyways, and the vocalist didn't, or the lyricist didn't care to have the lyrics out there in the public ear either. But so much of this is audible. I went back and listened to the parts with lyrics, and reading some of the lines, yeah, they match up for the most part. There's a couple places where I'm like, I don't know if that's what I heard, but the rest of the sentence was accurate. And the parts that are incomplete, where no one knows what's being said there, I agree. I have no idea what's being said there either. But there's only 20-ish lines in this track, which is crazy because it's 12 minutes long. And some of these lines are just one or two words, like dreaming or love or no way. It felt like there were so many more lyrics in this track, and there ended up not being a lot. But of the 20 lines that are here, 8 are unknown, indecipherable. No one has a good read on them. That's coming up on half of the song. And much like a piece of Swiss cheese, when half of it's missing, you don't really get a good serving of the food. Yeah, that metaphor fell apart. Anyways, I don't know what's going on here. Like a newborn child coming in from the cold, take him in and wrap him. Then I will disappear. Say goodbye to your nice bed. Couple lines, no one knows what they say. No more are you free. And dreaming, how long till you waste away? Ticking down the time, we'll see. So it's not a newborn child, but we're going to treat it like that, wrapping up someone who came in from the cold. But then our narrator leaves and tells you to say goodbye to your nice bed, but the narrator's leaving, not the you. And I feel like there's a layer of metaphor going on here that I'm not getting, because the very straightforward story is a mishmash of ideas. This person, though, coming in from the cold and has been wrapped up, presumably some sort of care has been done to save them. Maybe they were sick. It says that they're no longer free, but that they do dream, and that they are wasting away, but no one knows how long it'll take for that to happen. The title is called Stillborn. I've been trying to figure out how that might work into this. And honestly, I don't know. It says, I stand here forever, never giving up a fight, and I never forget anyone. A few lines where no one knows what's being said, which makes that a really interesting thought to trail off on. It says, so long as you find your thoughts your own, you will never know what you will find. Later on, we have a chorus that goes back to the idea of ticking, how long until you waste away, the time's ticking down. It says, I'm out of my mind and I'm crazy for you, but I will die all by myself, waiting for the time to win her. Love, long and cold is my time. Some indecipherable screams, over and under, I don't know what comes after that, and then another scream. This part about waiting in time to win her love and wanting to die, not die, that I will die by myself, but that I'm crazy for her, all comes after the drone section. What any of this has to do with the previous part, I don't know. But the set of lyrics is riddled with unknowns, and I hope that if those were filled in, the lyrics might make a little bit more sense. Unfortunately, I have no way of tying this back to the music other than that there is a heavy weight to a lot of this. There is a feeling of loss throughout this. But as far as specifics, I can't really speak on that. So these are my thoughts then on Burning Witch's Stillborn. What did you think of this track? Is there any... Oh! I forgot to talk about grace notes. Real quick. All right, I know we were going to end this, and honestly, this isn't too consequential to the music, especially since I figured out what was really happening with the rhythmic pattern, but I did promise I'd explain it, so if anyone's interested, let me put this here at the end. A grace note is a small, thin, what in the world? It was already up. Small, thin note that appears before another one. So if we're looking at this, we have the 4/4. You can ignore the bottom one for right now. That requires a little bit more music knowledge. But, well, no, I guess we need it. Anyways, the top one tells us that there's 4 beats. The bottom one tells us that the quarter note gets the beat. And this big chunky circle over here says that it's a 4-beat, well, it's a 4 quarter note length notes, which is going to take up the entire bar. That's why it just kind of exists by itself. The grace note doesn't really take up space at all. You don't really count it when you're counting out the rhythm of the music. What this says, the grace note is on B, the whole note is on C, and you're gonna go ba-da, ba-da. It's a little neat little like flourish. You kind of hit it before the other one. And so when I was saying that the rhythms felt like they were grace notes to the beat that I was feeling, it would come in just a hair bit in front of or just a hair bit behind where I was feeling the beat to be. Not necessarily half of a beat away or even a quarter of a beat away, but just barely ahead or behind where I was anticipating it. As if my beat was the grace note or as if they were hitting the grace note to my downbeat. So yeah, there we go. I thought that'd be easier to talk about, but understanding time signature is really important for this, this example right here. All right, anyways, there we go. There's your little grace note 101. Now, for real this time, these are my thoughts on Burning Witch's Stillborn. What did you think of this? Is there anything that stood out to you? Anything that you would like to add on to what I said or correct me on? Do you have your own take, perspective, or opinion on this? Let me know. Put all of that and anything else you'd like to into the comment section below. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. It takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all 3 of those. All right, that wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, though, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.